The Harley-Davidson Experience gone wrong at Eisenhower's Chesapeake Harley-Davidson. Let's talk about that. Good Moto Morning. I'm your host, Eric. Welcome to another episode of Kraken's Garage. Today we talk about how the wheels fell off the cart on the purchase of my Harley-Davidson Revival Icon, and we'll talk about how some of these principles will apply to you when you purchase a new motorcycle of any brand. They are common within dealerships, and we'll talk about what to look for and how to avoid getting, shall we say, taken advantage of. So let's talk about that. So I sold a couple of my bikes. I got some money burning a hole in my pocket, and I thought about what do I really want and where do I want to go with my motorcycling career, so to speak. And ultimately, this bike melts my butter. What can I say? I think it's beautiful. Others don't get it, I do, and I just love it. So I did a little research and I checked around with a couple of the dealers in the neighborhood, and all of them were charging ADM. ADM is an acronym for Additional Dealer Markup. And it varies from dealership to dealership. That's where you need to be an educated consumer, and it's not just the price of the bike, it's also the fees they charge on top of it, where there can be a lot of hidden up fees to increase their profit margin. Now in this particular case of this bike, I went to Stonewall Harley-Davidson, and they have one. There's 3 dealerships that are owned by this franchise, which was a car dealership. Ted Britt Mazda started in Fairfax, Virginia, and he grew an empire, and now he's buying Harley-Davidson dealerships, and he owns 3 of them. The long and the short of it is they wanted about $4,000 over list price. So I moved on to the next one, Witt's Harley-Davidson in Manassas. I'm a previous customer from there as well, and they wanted about $5,000 over list price. So I'm getting disheartened and discouraged, so I checked with one more, and that was Richmond Harley-Davidson. And I just shot them an email, and it took 3 emails to get them to answer the question. I'm like, what is your asking price for the Revival? Hi, this is Jeff, come on down. That's great, Jeff. What is the asking price of the Revival? Finally, he answered the question. $42,000 plus taxes, tags, and title. I'll throw a picture of the email up on the screen here. Good googly moogly. That's $29,200 to $42,000 is about $12,000-$13,000 markup. That's insane. So I kind of wrote it off and said to heck with it. So I looked nationwide after I kind of got over the fact that this probably isn't going to happen. Me personally, I will never pay additional dealer markup for anything, ever. It's never going to happen with me. Found a dealer in Maryland, Eisenhower's Chesapeake Harley-Davidson, that has one, and lo and behold, they're only charging $29,199. They touted that they don't charge freight or setup. They charge a $495 dock fee, and that is it. I'm like, that's more than fair. I mean, it's not uncommon in this industry to pay freight and prep. My local Yamaha Honda dealer, the freight and prep on every one of their bikes is $1,000 in that place. So it's kind of a common practice, and like I said, a profit center for the dealer principal or the owner of these dealerships. So I said, let me think about it, and I'll call you back this evening. So I talked to Mrs. Kraken about it because I don't have quite enough to pay cash for it. I'm going to have to finance a portion of it. And after I got beat up for that, and rightfully so, because I'm usually out of control when it comes to motorcycles and scooters and things of that nature, we agreed that we could sweat this deal and make it happen. So I called my salesperson up, Joe, who is wonderful, by the way. I'll throw his card up on the screen here. Highly recommend this gentleman. He's ethical, he's a straight shooter. I asked very direct questions, he answered with very direct answers. That's all I can ask for. And I said, Joe, I want the bike, let's do this. Can I give you a deposit? The answer was no. And I'm like, what? And he said, well, the general manager does not allow any deposits on bikes. If you want it, come down and buy it. And I'm like, Joe, I'm almost 200 miles away from you. I can't get down there and like walk out the door today and make that happen. He said, well, you know, I don't make the rules. I hear what you're saying. It's frustrating for me as a salesperson to tell people this because I get beat up on a regular basis, but it is what it is. So I said, okay, I'm going to finance a portion of it, and my credit union right now has a rate of 2.49%. Money's very cheap right now. That said, I can't fill out the documentation and have them mail you a check in a timely manner without the risk of losing this bike. And he said, well, you can go through Harley-Davidson financing, and if the interest isn't agreeable, just pay it off and refinance it. And I'm like, okay. So I go to their website and I fill out the credit application. It's very simple. It's about 5-6 lines, and boom, got an instant approval. And you get a numeric value based on your credit score. And mine was the very premium tier. And I called Joe back and we had another candid conversation. I said, here's what my score is, and it's pre-approved. It's sitting on somebody's desk because I tagged your dealership when I filled out the credit application. And I asked what the rate was, and he said 3.49%. And I'm like, well, that's only 1% over, done deal. I will be leaving in the morning. I got to scramble and pick up a U-Haul trailer. With my back has been howling and giving me fits. I don't think I can get the bike up and down the motorcycle ramps in the bed of my truck, so I need something much lower to the ground. So at this point, I'm talking to my local U-Haul dealer right here where I live, and no, they don't have a motorcycle trailer. So I hang up the phone and I go to call the next one, and at that point, all of them were already closed. So I'm like, yikes. So I went online to U-Haul's website and was able to find one within close proximity and secure a trailer and arrange to pick it up. It's odd, I wasn't allowed to pick it up until 11:15, and I'm like, I can still make that work, no problem. So I get up the next morning, get all my gear to possibly test ride it, and I also bring my gear to load it on the trailer and secure it to the trailer for the journey home. I get to the U-Haul dealership and I'm about a half hour early. I'm early to everything, that's just who I am. The gal, very nice, Miss Rodriguez, she said, I'm sorry, the guy hasn't returned it yet. Let me get on the horn and find out what's going on. So she calls the guy, or actually the guy's spouse, and she calls him and she says, well, he's right around the corner, should be there shortly. A couple hours go by. It's now going on 1 o'clock, and finally the guy arrives. So now I'm uber late. The U-Haul joint was mortified. They offered to give me a credit for $50 towards my rental fees, and I'm like, don't be silly, this isn't your fault. And you need to understand the environment here in America these days. This gal, Miss Rodriguez, is trying to run this facility with only a couple employees because none are coming back to work. The environment here in America is we're paying people more money to stay at home with unemployment than it is to go back to work, so people aren't going back to work. They're running with a skeleton staff, and it's hard for businesses to make a buck and survive. And I said, absolutely not. I will pay full price per normal. It has nothing to do with U-Haul or you. It's this other individual who was laxed on returning it. People don't care. They're just not timely. It is what it is. So I load up the trailer. I'm figuring it's Friday. Now bear in mind, Friday became a holiday in the United States for Juneteenth. So Juneteenth is a holiday that celebrates enslaved African Americans that were told they were free back in 1865. A century and a half later, this country is just now recognizing that with a national holiday. So in the back of my mind, I'm thinking, cool, we have a holiday. Where this dealership is located is on the Eastern Shore up in Maryland. I have to drive from where I live around Washington, D.C. or through D.C., then into Baltimore, then another hour or so, 2 hours to get to the place on the shore. As the crow flies, it roughly is about 183 miles from my doorstep. Should normally take just a tad over 3 hours. Folks, if you don't know Washington, Baltimore, D.C. area, you have no idea what the traffic is like around this part of the woods. It's the reason why Mrs. Kraken and I moved out of the D.C. area and came out here to the boonies to get away from that environment. So I started my journey. 8 accidents between here and the dealership. I'm talking total cars, I'm talking ambulances carrying away banged up people. Every inch of the way was nothing but stop and go. It took me almost 8 hours to get to the dealership. That's not true. It took me about 5 hours to get to the dealership, and it was a nightmare to get all the way there. It was just unbelievable. Now bear in mind, I have a big truck and I'm towing a trailer, and it's bumper to bumper traffic, and I've got 1,000 turns to make and have to merge this rig in and out of all of that. So it was stressful just getting down there and not getting rear-ended and things of that nature. Enough on that. Okay, I'm gonna stop this video here. It's getting way too long and we're gonna cut it up into 2 parts. So we're gonna end this as part 1 right here and now. And I hope you tune in for the next one to see the conclusion of how this all unfolded. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up. If you didn't like it, give it a thumbs down. If you want to see more in the future, hit that subscribe button right down there in the corner. And remember, folks, go riding. It's good for you, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.